Okay, so I'm standing on a site right now from a local woodlot owner, and we're just taking a look at some of the trees that were planted and fertilized with the Gilbert Smith-pak. They would have been 7 years ago, so this tree has just completed its 7th growing season. And one of the things that I really am excited about when it comes to this particular product is just the size of the crown that you get, particularly with Douglas fir. It really stands out but when you use it. And that large crown size is not only going to thicken your stem, if you want to come in here and just take a look at this, but all of the stems, you can just see that these trees are not going anywhere. They're just solid. But this crown is ultimately going to lead to a massive increase in volume. One of the things that I like that this woodlot owner did, and I'm so excited about, is the fact that he prepped as well as fertilized at the time of planting. And if you really want to enhance the volume gains that you're going to get, if you really want to outcompete the brush that's going to come in later on, prepping the site, loosening the soil, allowing that tree to get its roots out, allowing moisture to penetrate, is going to give it the ability to take up that fertilizer and use it to the maximum. So it's really exciting to see what is possible by fertilizing at the time of planting with Gilbert Smith-paks. One thing that happens a lot on this woodlot is a lot of site prep, and it really helps position the trees again, just to be able to take advantage of being able to get a hold of their competition, but it also affords them the opportunity to utilize the fertilizer. When I take a look, this block was just fall planted this year, so it's only been in the ground a couple of weeks. But when I take a look around and I see the level of disturbance that's happened on this site and creating those microsites for the trees to be able to really get going, it really is important, and it really helps them get their trees established much better than they could if they have just chosen to raw plant, especially considering the brush that's going to come in. Okay, now I'm in another spot within the woodlot, and one of the challenges that the woodlot owner has here is that they can end up with some pretty extreme brush competition. That brush competition being cottonwood, aspen, birch, bit of willow. But having to brush out their stand before free growing is very common around here. In fact, the brushing may have to occur 2 or 3 times. What is key, and one of the reasons, the main reasons that they fertilize at the time of planting, is to set up their trees so that when that time of brushing comes, because the brush is so aggressive here that even with fertilizing at the time of planting, it still outcompetes the conifers. However, when that brushing treatment does need to occur, the conifers have a much larger crown, they're much healthier, they're more resilient, and when that treatment happens, they're much more capable of responding. So you end up with a healthy stand that's responding to the treatment rather than trees that are suffering and already starting to go backwards because they don't have a crown. So that is key. And that allows them also to have a better advantage or a better chance of keeping up with the competition when it tries to come back again and staying over top of it. So that is key. The other thing that the woodlot owner is thinking about is resilience, and resilience over all of the stand. The woodlot's going to get its volume back one day. So every tree that survives through rotation matters. And with the type of weather events that we've been having with, like, for instance, the heat dome in 2021, and a lot of people lost their trees as a result of that, even larger trees. What he's found is just that the larger crown, that the trees that have been fertilized at the time of planting are just that much more resilient and able to take on the challenges of adverse weather conditions than trees that hadn't been treated. And that's really interesting because that's very consistent with what I was finding on my site out in the Tum Tum where I had the Douglas fir trial, is that the needle drop in the trees that were not fertilized, the controls, was much greater. In fact, in the fertilized trees, there was hardly any needle drop at all, and the growth differences the year later in 2022 are substantial. So it's really important. So those are the reasons that they fertilize at the time of planting here, and it's something definitely that you'll want to consider. The last thing that I would reiterate, and I asked the woodlot owner, was would you ever considering going into one of these sites and planting trees without fertilizing at the time of planting? And their answer was absolutely not. If they anticipate any kind of a site challenge coming on down the road, even in this free-growing legislative climate that they had, they would not plant a tree without fertilizing at the time of planting. So these ones here, I'll fertilize with the Gilbert Smith-pak again. So some things to consider on brushy sites. Okay, I just wanted to show everybody something really quickly that was on the woodlot. This is really impressive. I was here 6 years ago, and Craig showed me a number of trees that were on the side of a road that he had kind of rehabilitated, left a quad trail in the middle. But the trees were doing terrible. So what he did was take a couple of tea bags after the first year of planting. They'd already grown for one season, and he added them to the seedlings. And this is what they look like 6 years later. At the beginning they were just completely sad, but it's amazing what a couple of tea bags did for these trees. What really it did was to help them establish. And establishment is everything. Once a tree has access to the resources on site, it's fine. But if it never gets that critical mass where it's able to establish properly, it will never perform to the degree that it needs to. So anyways, this is just something to consider for sites. If you got rehab and your trees are still suffering, you can add some more tea bags. But also, if you're having to do a brushing on a site and you're wanting to give those trees an extra little boost, you could also fertilize at the time of your brushing treatment by putting the fertilizer at the drip line, and you could expect a similar result.